Huang. I'm an author, spirit coach, and also a psychic. In this very particular episode, let's talk about ghost contract. Do you know that you can actually set a contract with the ghost? In the past 20 plus years of consultation, it's very often I got clients come to me and inquiry how to cope with the situation that they feel they've been followed by ghosts or harassed or interrupt, or they feel like their house are haunted. So various psychic related questions, as you can imagine. Though this is something that I knew for a long time, but it's only recently become a method like I can share with you all. The reason of that is because the longest time I never think ghosts bother me at all, based on the mutual agreement, since it's really hard for a psychic not to be able to see a ghost. So under the mutual agreement, as long as they don't bother me, I don't bother them, I think the space is for everybody to share. It's only until recently, one of my past client, in a funny conversation, I found out that she actually had been harassed by ghosts for 20 plus years. It's not under the mutual understanding, like I don't bother you, you don't bother me, then we are all in this happy place. In fact, she has been bothered for past 20 plus years to a point that she constantly have to wear earplug to go to bed. It's only then it got my curiosity to question her, how come you don't set agreement with her? So never in her mind she had this idea, I did not know I can set a contract with a ghost. As many of you, or probably many people who do not see ghosts or do not know how to handle ghosts, we have an understanding of, since I cannot touch you or feel you or do anything to you, therefore I will only be the victim of whatever you force upon me. But ghosts are just like every living soul. There's always contract that can be bonded with them. That's also a reason why demons always have to sign a contract with you, just in case you don't know, or how the God have to have agreement with you. Either is oral or written, soul and soul, what I'm saying, whether it's ghost form or human form, you can be bonded by the contract. So this is how I will share how to bond the contract with you. As many of you believing that your house is haunted by the ghost, do you know as a renter of the property or the property owner, you can actually sign the agreement with the ghost? Of course, not they're gonna show up and sign with you, but you could come up with agreement. That's have a lot to do with, user pay, right? You pay for you, the user. So based on the agreement, you can set up a rate. Remember, the rate cannot be whatever you like. It had to be reasonable. That is, you can study what's your average rate around your neighborhood, how much space or things that they use. So for example, for my client, the location like she was living can charge up to $350 per night per person. So in that case, she can charge $350 per night per person. So she can go home. All you have to do is you will go home. Remember, you have to be the renter or you have to be the owner of the property. So if you sign a legal agreement and you did pay the rent, then you could make the announcement. That is pretty much like Airbnb. Before you want anybody to live into your place, you set up what the rule need to be followed in your house. So in this very particular case, my client can set the price up to $350 US per person per night. If they interrupt her sleep, then you can give we call penalty or fine. So that could be times about 3 times more or 5 times more. It depends on how you value your sleep. Me personally, I can jet up to 5 times or 10 times just because I don't like anybody to interrupt my sleep. So once you set up that agreement, ghosts, even though you don't see the sign, that rule is basically bonded to your property, that if the ghost, any ghost, would like to use your personal space, then they will have to pay that fine. Of course, you would say, well, how do I know if they pay the fine? See, this is how the things work on the spiritual realm. Is once agreement is bonded, the soul will simply have to follow. Unlike human would believe, hey, I know this is something wrong, but I will still try to do it. Since now the ghost or spirit do not have the physical body, then they simply have to follow one rule, that is the spiritual rule. With the price we call as the banking, we got human currency. On the ghost currency, there is basically, you can call it spiritual banking. So spiritual banking is user pay, right? If they do use your service or they do use up your space, the currency or the money were usually deducted directly from their spiritual account, whether the ghosts agree or not agree. Usually that price will be cashed out in 3 years with the interest of 100% per years. So since the things can be cashed out within 3 years, if they delay the payment, that means you will receive 300% of interest. That is also why dollar goes based on user pay agreement. They will try to get back the money to you as soon as possible without paying any interest. So anyway, this is some little tip for you all. I'm hoping that will give you a little bit idea. Sure enough, if you want to know what has to come, well, my client finally after 20-something years got to sleep without earplug on, and also have a surprise money coming in. Obviously, we know who has been having a party on her upstairs, even though it was bungalow. Then many of my clients also share their feedback of that as well. So anyway, just for you all to have a little idea, if you are still fear of ghosts and don't know what to do, feel like they're taking up your space and would like to get paid, here's the tips. You can always sign a ghost contract that most likely once the price is set, agreement is announced, you don't need a ghost to show up and sign it. But once the agreement is announced, literally every property will have a price tag, and you will most likely show up like Airbnb when you try to look for a place for the spirits as well. So if they do want to use your space, since there is a contract, they will have to pay. But do mind you, the reason they call ghosts is because they still contain the human logic, which may or may not make sense. So most likely, even when you make the announcement, they will still try to deny payment for the first 3 days to a week. But until they realize all the money was just simply deducted from their own spiritual bank, they will learn to behave. So set a fixed price. A lot of time people will say by donation. You don't know what donation is. If you want things to return in the financial way, like money, then do specify that as well. Otherwise, most likely, if you just want to get repayment, the repayment can be presenting. Since it's withdraw from the spiritual bank, it could be representing in so many different forms to represent wealthiness or fulfillment or, richness, whatever you call it. So anyway, hope this episode give you guys a rough idea. Again, actually, hope you guys don't freak out again the next time you have a ghost in your house. I mean, treat it like a renter. You actually get income coming in. If you know what I'm doing, follow, share, and like. See you next time. Bye now.